Fading out the music. Now, I used to like having the background music, but y'all, like I said, y'all don't like ambience. Y'all don't know how to enjoy nice things. But anyway, welcome to the BroDiallo broadcast. I had a fight with my wife because we're both in California right now, and she said, well, we've been in California, and she was like, so the show Monday, I think you should go on at like 5 o'clock because your audience, like, she take better care of the audience than me. She tell me how to deal with my kids. She tell me how to raise my kids. She tell me how to deal with my audience. She's all over the place. But anyway, she says, because last time, if you remember, if you are a true BroDiallo listener, you know, the last time I was in California back in February, I went on at 7 o'clock where I'm at. You know, it ain't where I'm from, it's where I'm at. So when 7 o'clock came where I was at, I was on my job. And so she was like, yeah, I think you should go on at 5 or 6 so that it's a consistent time. And I'm like, what if we're in Nigeria? What if we're in Puerto Rico? What if we're in New York? And I'm supposed to be adding and subtracting? I got all the degrees I intend to get and diplomas and certifications. I'm done learning anything. So I'm not adding, subtracting, nothing. So I'm like, I'm going to go on at 7 o'clock where I'm at. That's my commitment. BroDiallo show, Monday, 7 p.m., wherever we are on the planet. If I'm in the middle of the Atlantic, you know, and I'm moving across time zones, then I'm flipping it. I don't play. But so anyway, to appease her, I said, maybe I'll split the difference and see how that goes. Because I had to run back here. I was out doing things. I was out. And first I was like, well, I'll do it while I'm out and about. But I couldn't find no secure place. And I don't know California. I hate to be doing this show and somebody run up and punch me in the back of the head because they take issue with what I'm saying. And, you know, I'm between LA and Santa Barbara. I'm in kind of a place I don't know, even though I've been here several times. So I'm not going to sit there. It ain't even the pain of being punched in the back of the head. It's the embarrassment of the audience. Because I be seeing mad people out and about live and people run up and haul off on them. You know, and, you know, it wasn't being taped, but I have had people run up on me while I'm speaking in public. In Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, years ago, but people have calmed down now. Trump didn't calm black folks down. So anyway, y'all tell me, should I do 7 p.m. wherever I'm at, irregardless? And then I told her, I said, people watch me across several time zones. And she was like, well, it's still the same time for them. You know. And like I told her, and then I just was like, listen, I don't come to your classroom and bore your students. Please don't tell me how to run my thing. There you go. There you go, Robin. Right on. I'll tell her you said that. But I see you deleted your picture from your post, from your name, before you sent that. But anyway, that's what I did. I split the difference. I'm not an unreasonable man. Damn, what the hell am I? Where am I? You know, I lost my headphones. Damn. Where are my chains? I lost my headphone. My heart is broken. Rental cars. I have a real bad history with rental cars. My favorite pair of sunglasses I lost in a rental. I put them in the little sunglass thing, and I dropped the car off in the evening, left my sunglasses. This time, I got in a car, took off my headphones because I was listening to my headphones on the airplane, and I had them around my neck. And I got in the rental and took off my headphones, put the luggage in the car, and I turned on the car, and the dash cam was black. So I'm like, this rental car doesn't work. So the dude was literally like This is California. So he's like, hey, boy, hey, cuz, just get in the next one. I'm like, what? Hey, cuz, just get in the next one, cuz. And so I got in the car right next to it, like no paperwork, no change or nothing. And I'm like, you can do that? And no, the photo is not Photoshop. That's an authentic. That's a full scale. I think he did a photo shoot for like Vanity Fair with his whole family. So no, that is an authentic photo of your president and role model. So when the dude like, I call, hey, just take the car, call. So I get in the next car. I get the luggage out. I get everything out. I get my water out, and I put it in the next car and pull off and left my goddamn headphones in the armrest. It hurts, man. That hurts. You know, I don't get attached to material things, but I do get attached to poverty, and I can't and not being able to replace material things. So I got to fly all the way back to Chicago with just my thoughts. No, not just my thoughts. Y'all know what we do last time? Every time I come here, every time I come to LA, I got a spot where I get these used books for $2 a piece. So I go in, and the gist is they don't take debit, they don't take credit. You got to come in with cash. It's like a trap house, but for books. And they sell any book, hardback, any book, $2. You can walk away with the whole bookstore. So let me show you what I got. I got Howard Zinn, shout out. And they had a black, like when I was there in February, they had a black book selection. It was all Cornell West. And I'm not trying to diss people, but Ibram X. Kendi, like, you know, decaffeinated black. You know, so I didn't, you know, really, but the other stuff. Oh, you Kit Kat? Yeah, I got you exposing me. Why are you talking about Kit Kat? Let me tell you something. I'm ashamed. Let me show you this. This is the same Kit Kat from like I've been showing y'all every week. The exact same Kit Kat bar. This is my last Kit Kat. This is not new. And I've been traveling with it. This is shameful. Y'all really getting into my psychology. I hope the feds and CIA ain't watching this. Whatever Fed assigned to do my psychological workup for the impending fascist gatherings, for the impending fascist purge of black, you know, thought leaders. I would like to take a look at the section on this Kit Kat business. This is the last Kit Kat I will ever have, and I've been carrying it around with me. I've been traveling with it, and I can't bring myself to eat it. That's weird. So it's weird that you would mention that, and that is the Kit Kat from the last trip, the Kit Kat from Chicago. This Kit Kat has come back and forth to California at least twice. So will the Fed that's doing my psychological profile, before y'all intern me, before y'all send me to Guantanamo, I'd like to look at that because I don't even understand it myself. But anyway, let's go over the books. I went, like I said, there's this little house. It's a little house. It's not even a legal commercial spot, but there's this little house that sells used books for $2 each. And it's like just outside of Santa Barbara, California. I don't even want to tell y'all. But I got this is a gift. I think I'm gonna give it to my oldest son. I have a copy of this book actually, and the book's always got something in them. Oh, this brother, brother, somebody's floss threader. Brother, what the? I got the light's too weird. Throw that in the trash. Books always be having something in them. These are used books, but I got this. This is for you, Oromo, who's working on getting his undergrad. He wants to be a history teacher in a public school, and he wants to be a union member. He wants to be broke and struggling. Ladies, my oldest son, is about to begin student teaching. And he wants to teach at a predominantly black school. He wants to teach history and black history. and political science. And I told him I don't think they teach political science in high school. So he wants to be a teacher. He's 6'3". That's all he got. That's all he got is height. Like 6'4" or 5. I don't know. But that's all he got. He going to be broke as his father. And he ain't even going to inherit nothing because I'm broke too. So, but, you know, if you want to turn out some ball chasers, he can help you in that. But anyway, I'm going to give this to him, not as a graduation gift because he's not finished yet. But I think this time next year, and I'm just going to give this to him. Again, $2. $2. I got this. I'm ashamed to show this one. I was going to leave this one out. But, you know, I get butt naked on the BroDiallo show. I ain't got nothing to hide. I should have flipped through these things. Okay, this one's clean. This is Herodotus, the histories. Really give you some look into white folks. But what I like best about this book, because this book has, I don't have a copy of it, but I'm very familiar with it. But this book gives some pre-colonial perspectives on African antiquity. He talks specifically about North Africa, Ethiopia, Egypt. So I like those parts. But it's overall, you know, the history, the psychology is this is as much about white psychology as it is about white history. This is a book, another book that I also, European medieval life. I like to read books about, well, it's not showing up. This light is killing me. But if I turn the light off, I'm going to be talking from the Netherlands. So I don't have good lighting. It's a hotel room, and I ain't the type of dude that can travel with shit. But this is a medieval life from 1295 to 1344. So before the age of exploration, where white people brought the light of Christ and civilization to the world. And I like reading about the history of common people. You know, like Howard Zinn, but so medieval life. But I was actually reading. I spent way too much time in that bookstore today. Tried to read the books I didn't want to buy. But it talks about religion. It goes into like towards the end because the Black Death and the plagues towards the end. But you know, how did these people who came to rule the world, how did they come to be? Because even though, as Kwame Ture said, only the people make history. Only the common people, the masses of the people are the engine of history. The great man, the individuals stand on the shoulders of. So you will not comprehend Western hegemony, global white domination by just looking at Trump or George Washington or Alexander the Great. You got to look at the peasants. You got to look at the serfs. You got to look at the toothless trailer park rednecks. And that's why I don't like that shit. I don't like that shit about well, the Dark Ages has kind of gone out of play. That's not really considered a historical term now, because if you're around a bunch of snobby historians, and you say Dark Ages, they'll start to correct you. So I'm actually squatting in this chair because this is the worst chair I've ever sat in my life. My wife sat in it first and said something's wrong with the chair, and I said, "Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that chair. You know, you just don't know how to work the mechanics of it." And she's like, "No, I think there's something wrong with this chair," because she was sitting in it earlier. And now I come over here and something's definitely wrong with this chair, and I owe her an apology, which she will not get. But anyway, let's get back to my haul. Let me get back to flexing. Saving the planet without the bullshit. What they don't tell you about the climate crisis. Assad Rasokh. I don't know who this dude is. Nothing in the book good. But this book is crispy as hell. If you look at the other books, they look used and ran through. But this book is a virgin. So, I don't know. Maybe it put some people off. The people, I always look to see if a book is good. I look back here to see the people who gave blurbs for it. And there's really nobody of note that gives it any blurbs. It's like mostly middle of the road people like David Schuckman, BBC, mainstream corporate media. So I'm not that excited about the book, but I read a lot of shit on climate change and the climate crisis. So I never heard of the book. It went off my radar. So I'll let y'all know. Y'all know when I know. I can't tell you. The Ideal of Race in Latin America. 1870 and 1940. Because y'all like to think Latin is a race. Y'all like to think Latino is a race. Y'all like to think Hispanic is a race. Y'all think Mexican and Puerto Rican is a race. We don't, when it comes to Latin America, we think everybody there is brown. We've classified those as brown people, even though there are Africans, there are conquistador, European white people down there acting just like our homegrown white people. There are a large population of Asians, East Indians, Guyana, East Indians, but you call them all brown, black and brown. You just call them all brown. And I don't understand why we have that fixation where we don't understand race, nationality, and ethnicity. That just completely breaks down when somebody comes south of the border. The people south of the border, and you can talk about and even stand in persecution with Latin American people because they are a persecuted group. But within that huge persecuted population, there are predatory persecutors, conquistadors. Latin America is still run by conquistadors. They ain't no goddamn melting pot. You go down there, no. Latin America, Central America, the Caribbean is not a fucking melting pot. The racial lines are drawn, the barriers are drawn, and when you go down there and see who's in power, see who's being persecuted, the native South Americans, the Arawak, Kalinagos, Aztecs, Mesoamerica, them people are still under genocide. The native people of the conquistadors, the white people from Brazil to Colombia, Argentina, are still committing genocide against their native indigenous populations. I think we need to show more respect. So it ain't no such thing as black and brown unity, because who the hell are the brown people? Anyway, the idea, and this is a compilation. I don't know who the editor is, but I'm sure there's a lot of gems in here. We need to stop saying black and brown. It is disrespectful to the suffering indigenous, our suffering African brothers and sisters. Can you imagine, as the United States empire crumbles and all people in America, we start to try to flee this crumbling empire, and we cross a border with a white Aryan, and they just group us all together as Americanos? Wouldn't that be weird? Oh, here come the Americanos. And group us all together and treat us like we all the same. Anyway, and this is another book I have. I've read this book through twice. Here we got something else. I need to start flipping through these books. They just throw these. I don't know where they get the books from. Oh, it's a Christmas card. Y'all want to get into somebody's business? You can't see. Look, it's a Christmas card from December 2022. Merry Christmas and wishing you all the best in 2023. Love, Monica. No last name. Dear Mom, Merry Christmas. And I'm sad we weren't seen. That's why you need to go to used bookstores. I ain't going to get into their business, though. We have tamales and pozole. Who eats tamales and pozole? I'm assuming this is I'm north of Los Angeles. This is see, and before you take your books in too, and I got to start doing this because I do donate books and I give books away, and I take books to the book box. This is fine. I don't mind this. Too bad. Probably somebody was using it as a bookmark. All right, Mayor Monica, I got your card. I got a little piece of your family lore here. That's it. That's the hub. Oh, The Long Emergency. James Howard Kunstler. I haven't heard much from him lately. But let me take that down. James Howard Kunstler was cooking back in the early 2000s. This is a great book. I highly recommend it. The Long Emergency. Peak Oil. This was really going good at peak oil. Nobody says peak oil anymore because they found alternative. But yeah, we still are at peak oil, and that's not even a thing anymore. That's all my things. They even just give you random bags, Albertsons. They just put your shit, man. I'll tell you, there's a literary trap house. I'd love to open a used bookstore in Chicago. Somebody holler at me if you want to. How you know that? That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Right at the foot of the mountains. That's right. I'm in Carpinteria. Right outside of Savage Barber. Somebody know where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Anyway, but I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm just here for one night. So I'm out of here tomorrow morning. Give me some coffee, though, at that one little coffee spot. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. I'm glad to be outside. I'm glad to be traveling. I still mask. Where my mask at? Somebody accused me of not wearing. Yeah, I still wear a mask. People look at me funny. I'm still masking out here. And these are my favorite. Got me through I still mask up when I'm out and about. So on the plane, in stores, bro is masked up. Hoodie and masked up for that. But I digress. Let's get into the topic because I can't be long. I really don't have much time at all. But I had to run back here. I got a phone call. Shout out to co-conspirator number 2, my homie Chauncey called. This is my brother, man. Without Chauncey, wouldn't be no BroDiallo show. Bro been looking out, and that's my dog. He moved away. He couldn't hack it on the south side of Chicago. No, it's not necessary. But what I'm trying to do, I don't need no N95 mask. A good natural cotton mask. But I digress. I've already did the whole mask and explained all that, but I ain't getting back into that. But what was I saying? Oh, he called me and asked me to do something for him. I can't do it because here I am. I've been waiting for this opportunity because that's my dude. I'm like, yo, I want to show him. That's my brother. I appreciate and value dude. And he called me. It's like, yo, I need you to do something for me. I need you to pack something up, ship it here, And I'm like, absolutely. And he said he needed ASAP. I'm like, I got you. Co-conspirator number 1, but there's a problem. I'm over yonder. So that hurt me. I wish I wanted to show up and show out. See, don't ask for much. When you got a homie that's got your back, but hardly ever ask you for anything to do, you got to hit that hard. You got to show up and show out. If he had asked me this 2 days ago. Anyway, shout out to Lafayette. Shout out to Josh. Shout out to everybody. Billy. Shout out to Mr. Akiwowo. Shout out to everybody that came out to the house. My wife and I had a big plant giveaway. We had like over 200 plants, house plants and propagations to give away. And we called some people on the phone. I even created like an event page and had people, and we got rid of those plants because we had filled our whole house up with house plants. It would take like 4 hours to water, and we were constantly trimming plants and just tending to the plants. And that was great during quarantine. And we were propagating and securing plants. Had a couple of friends that moved, and we adopted their house plants. And so our house was like saturated with plants, and people would come in and compliment us like, wow, this whole place, every direction is green everywhere. And no, all legal. No, none of the devil's lettuce. No, all just companion plants. So and my wife and I have been talking about for months, we got to get rid of these plants. And I was going to go Rambo. I'm like, I'm about to take these suckers to the compost bin. I can't take it no more. It's just too many plants. Now, we still have a significant amount of plants, but it's manageable. Because like I said, we just filled our house up with life during quarantine and the pandemic, we filled our house up. And then we gave my son some plants for his apartment. And, he's like, I'm done with plants. He took like 3 or 4 plants. And then she set aside a couple of more. But it wasn't. So anyway, we still have some bowls and a couple of pots. But by and large, I'd say about 85% of the plants we had for adoptions are gone. And shout out to everybody that came through and adopted those plants and saved them from the compost bin. I sure appreciate y'all. And I'm happy to be able to spread some life around. But Leah, you're right. Let's get on track. What was I saying? Oh, this is one thing I wanted to touch on. They're erasing Black people and Native Americans from the U.S. military site. So if you've ever gone to any, because I used to go, like you can go to the Pentagon website, ain't nothing there, ain't no secrets there, but it's all propaganda. But there's all these stories across the wires talking about how the website, this has happened across all government agencies, but the one with the Pentagon, like the Black man who won the Medal of Honor, and there have been resignations of top military brass because they have been accused of being DEI. So they're literally falling on their own swords and they're obeying the commander, and they obey the commander, even though the commander is an overt racist fascist. And now they took down the Black. There was sections there about the accomplishments and contributions of Black soldiers, going all the way back to the Civil War and what's that fucking, the so-called Revolutionary War. And people are outraged. And they took down the Native American. Remember the Native American wind talkers? So the United States in its war against the Axis powers, fascist on fascist, racist on racist, genociders versus genociders. They used the Navajo language as a code because the Germans kept breaking the codes of the U.S., the Allied powers. So they used Navajo and they called them the wind talkers, and Hollywood made a propaganda movie about it. And these Native Americans who were under genocide went and fought to liberate, to fight the Nazi genocide. And they took that down. That's been purged from I didn't even know it was there, but it's been purged. And everybody's up in arms. And before they even got, and then remember, there were a lot of Black people, we're going to get more into this, that were so happy that the U.S. military first said we're no longer going to fund gender transition. We're not going to acknowledge gender transition. And now we're going to purge transgender soldiers. And Black folks thought all this shit was about the rainbow people trying to turn our boys into their daughters and mutilating the genitals. And a lot of Black people were championing the fascists because they thought the fascists was going to protect us from the other F word. And they were like, yeah, we're going to get these books. Heather Has Two Mommies. We're going to take out Heather Has Two Mommies. And they didn't just take out Heather Has Two Mommies. They took out any information out of the schools about Harriet Tubman and our ancestors. So they used, just like the Nazis, they used the gays, they used the disabled, they used smaller populations to go after larger small populations. And we fell for the okie doke. Now, my position is, I don't think I'm like the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers, as part of their 10-point plan, said that no Black person should be conscripted into the U.S. military. Now, my position goes further. I said no Black person should be conscripted into the U.S. military, and no Black person should volunteer for the U.S. military. And I have to say this. Every single major military conflict that the U.S. has been involved in the U.S. military has engaged in international war crimes and atrocities. The U.S. military has illegally occupied the lands from Okinawa to Philippines. The lands, the U.S. has illegal military bases. The U.S. is an empire, and the U.S. engages in neo-imperialism and neo-colonization because they don't go there and plant a flag and rename the country. They go there, they build a military base, and they engage in military and economic imperialism. But they don't do colonization. Well, they engage in neo-colonization. So every U.S. soldier since World War II, but before, but at least since every enlisted U.S. soldier is complicit in war crimes. Because according to the Geneva Convention, if you follow orders that are illegal, if you are commanded to commit crimes, it is your obligation as an individual to refuse illegal orders. And I know I got my favorite uncle, Big Uncle Chris, fought in Vietnam. You know, every single soldier that set foot on Iraqi or Afghani soil, every AFRICOM soldier is either directly or indirectly complicit in war crimes and atrocities. Even when they were fighting, because they tell us, oh, the U.S. fought Hitler and stopped the genocide. That's not true. The United States committed war crimes, systematic rape. The shit they do, they would assault women and then line them up and shoot them down. Atrocity upon atrocities. They're still finding mass graves in Iraq. And we're not even going to talk about the crimes against the people. We can't even get into the crimes against the ecosystem, crimes against nature. From the shit that the U.S. nuclear submarines are dumping in the deepest parts of our ocean and disrupting migratory patterns of whales, toxifying and leaving radioactive waste. So anyway, although I know it is driven by racism, one fight I'm not about to join into is about Black people and their standing in the U.S. military. I'm not going to protest deleting Black folks from the site. I'm not going to protest the resignation or ousting of Black brass. I say don't enlist. I've been part of protest movements to get recruiters out of the schools. I've been participated in don't enlist campaigns. I've even lost jobs working with Black youth, Black high school students. Because a lot of times brothers would be doing the selective service, and I was doing something like I lost a grant to teach urban agriculture, organic, non-GMO urban agriculture. They didn't renew our grant because a big part of that, I was working with juniors and seniors. And young people would come to me, and we would also do, as part of the program, teaching them how to work the land, help them to do their college paperwork, get into different service industries, learn certain trades. And every single 100% of the time, the student would come to me is like, well, I'm going to the military. I had one brother whose two older brothers had went to the military, and he was going to enlist. And I talked him out of it. That was during the first Trump administration. And some of these parents didn't like it. Like, how dare you tell my son not to be fodder for the U.S. empire? How dare you encourage my son not to become complicit in war crimes? You know? So this is something I'm going to stand on this. There's other ways to get into school, to pay for school, to navigate the world. I don't think any victim of imperialism and racism should be a soldier. But that's me. Some people think it's something that can be sympathized with or understood. So let's move on to the topic. Black masculinity and Donald Trump. I've been alarmed, even though I predicted it. I've been talking about it. I've been confronted with it. Hell, at one point in my life, I was a part of it. The degradation of the consciousness of Black men. How appealing this fascist term has been for Black men, and how many prominent Black men, Black male celebrities have been enthusiastically embracing this fascist term. You know, there's a viral clip of I think his name is Mackie. What's his name? Who's the new Captain America? Who's the Anthony Mackie? I always want to call him William Mackie because one of my personal mentors, one of my favorite, most honored ancestors is Professor William Mackie. And we call him Professor Mackie. And that's why I hate saying, but listen, I don't know Anthony Mackie. As far as I know, he's not a coon. I haven't seen the dude cross any serious lines. I don't know about any red flags related to the dude. So I'm not trying to disparage Anthony Mackie. I like the Marvel movies, even the ones that aren't good. I'm a comic book dude, and I grew up reading comics, so it's really something to me, and watching the comic cartoons and reading the graphic novels. So it's really spectacular for me to see these Hollywood productions, even though it's by a heart. But anyway, so I ain't take nothing away from that. But it is pro-military propaganda and all that, so we can break all that down. But this is not an attack. But Anthony Mackie was giving an interview, and he talked about raising his sons to be men, and fed into the bullshit about masculinity is under attack. And he said he's never bought his sons Jordans, and I don't want to do a play-for-play breakdown, because what's more important than him saying this milquetoast, disjointed shit, because it's shit, is how it reverberated. How many brothers sent me that shit thinking it would be something that I embrace. And how brothers are just like, yeah, he's Captain America. Like he's a hero. And just before that, I have to be careful what I say. Same thing about David Banner. David Banner just recently gave a speech about manhood, and he talked about how he drives a Ferrari around, and he demonstrates to young Black people that you can be conscious, you can be revolutionary, and it don't mean you're going to be broke. And his Ferrari is evidence of that. I'm like, the quality of analysis for African men specifically, but the Black conscious community as a whole has been so hollowed out and degraded. Has been so hollowed out and degraded. Because he said I never bought my sons Jordans. But his Mackie, when he said he never bought his Black son Jordan, which is a good thing. But as Kwame Ture teaches us, a half truth is more dangerous than a full lie. You know, and sometimes you can do the wrong thing for the right reasons, and you can do the right thing for the wrong reasons. Or another term that I used to say all the time, but I know how inappropriate it is for me to say it, being the avowed atheist that I am. But in saying I'm an avowed atheist is also inappropriate. But sin is not what you do, but the spirit in which you do it. So he went on to explain that he wouldn't buy them Jordans because in one part it was about materialism, but another part of that was about teaching them that values. Now, I don't buy my kids Jordans because, number one, I personally have disdain for Michael Jordan. I don't like Michael Jordan as a person. I don't like what he represents. I don't like how he conducted himself. And I hated how so many kids in my hood were so obsessed with this man. And I personally know, fortunately, nobody that was killed, but I personally know more than a few brothers that were assaulted and robbed, came home barefoot in the snow behind them fucked up ass slave produced shoes. But he didn't say because of sweatshop labor or because of capitalist materialism or hyper-consumerism. He didn't buy the children Jordans because he wanted basically to teach them the value of being delayed. Like Jordans are an appropriate aspiration or appropriate reward that you are not yet worthy of, which was weird to me. And he's raising his sons to be men and to be a provider. Masculinity is not under attack. Masculinity has not disappeared. Now, this is a tired thing, especially brothers my age, to be saying this. My parents, neither one of my parents are 20 years older than me. Both of my parents were teenagers. Neither one of my parents were adults. Both of my parents, when I was born, when my sister was born, were under the age of 18. I ain't gonna tell too much of their business, but neither one of my parents are 20 years older than me. Neither one of my parents are 18 years older than me. So I had very young parents. The good thing about having extremely young parents is you get to meet a lot of people that you otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to interact with if you were born to, I was about to say more responsible parents, but I'll just say if you were born to older parents. So I knew my great-grandfather, Sonic's boy. I knew him very well. I worked with him. I talked to him. I sit there and watch him tend his pipes. He had emphysema, so he couldn't smoke anymore, but he would still clean and tend his pipes. I used to want that pipe, and his pipes were on this carousel. It went to my Uncle Gene, my great Uncle Gene, his son, his only son, but I used to want those pipes, man. And so I get to see a wide swath. My great-grandfather's grandfather. I got great uncles. I knew my great uncles. I had a great uncle, great uncles, uncles, my cousins, my nephews. Now I got great nephew. I have just one. Yeah, I just got one great nephew. And I have more. But I know quite a good span of my family. And I break bread with the men in my family. And since my father wasn't around, my great-grandfather, my uncles, they all stepped up. And I'd have conversations. I got along with most of them. I get along with most of them who are still with us. And let me tell you something. This fucking manhood shit has been going on since forever. My great-grandpa Bowie would look at his grandsons, who were my uncle. Would look at his grandsons like, the fuck is wrong with these dudes? My great-uncle Gene would look at his nephews, who were my uncles, and be like, the fuck is wrong? And then my uncles looked at me, my man Rip, the Crip who was on the show, the dudes, and look at us like, the fuck is wrong with these dudes? And here we are looking at our kids, and some of our kids got kids. This has been going on, and you would think one generation would figure it out. One generation would be like, every preceding generation is not man enough for the previous generation. I remember my mother had a boyfriend named Eric. I guess I ain't got to say his whole name. He was an abusive cokehead, but she had a boyfriend, and he worked for Parks and Recreation of Kansas City. And he was the first person I ever knew that had an electric lawnmower. Right? He had an electric lawnmower. And my uncles, my great-grandfather, cousins, everybody thought, man, dude might as well be wearing a feather boa and a sequence halter top and do a dead drop Oh, there were no pride parades then. Where were people? At the local house club. I mean, that was like, he wasn't a real man. He out there cutting grass with and this is in the early 80s. He went out because he was really into landscaping and shit. He worked for Park and Rec. He was driving those big tractors. He used to bring me home turtles. I mean, he did some good shit for a domestic violence committing coke addict. He did some fun shit. People are very complex. But I remember all the, like, I'd be hanging out over one of my relatives' house, and the electric lawnmower would come up. I remember my uncles used to talk to my grandfather about football. And the 1980s footballers were some punks. They had way more. They got face guards and shit. And I remember he's like, yeah, they got these domes and they got this artificial turf. And he would be like, the guys in my day, they had leather helmets, no gloves, no specially scientifically aerodynamic cleats and sneakers. And the men who played football had other jobs. Footballers were not professionals. That's something you did. You know, like the Pittsburgh Steelers were steel workers. The Green Bay Packers worked in the meat industry. And so my great-grandfather, who raised his kids under Jim Crow and the Great Depression, he raised his kids up under Jim Crow and the Great Depression, saw his children's children come up in the post-civil rights era and the greed is good 80s, and thought my uncles were soft as hell. And these are dudes that hunt, fish, slap box. To this day, if I went over my uncle's house right now and knocked on his door in the middle of the night and be like, hey, Uncle Chris, let's slap box. He got a knee replaced. He got a metal knee. Wouldn't be no questions asked. He wouldn't be like, I didn't know you was in town. Where are your kids? If I say slap box, oh, shit, no questions asked right now. These are the burliest, rusty knuckle cats. And their grandfather thought they were poofs, sissies. And I'm like, why do we keep doing this? And I'm not saying like I'm judging brothers, because I do this with my sons. My sons are, I'm like, what's up with y'all, man? What's up with y'all? I lost my glass. Well, I didn't lose them. I broke my glasses, and I was looking for some glasses, and my wife was like, oh, these look like the ones you had. I'm like, yeah, those look good. Yeah. Then when she clicked on them to purchase the frames, it said women's frames. I'm like, oh, wait, stop. Those are women's frames. And she's like, oh, I didn't notice that because they look so much like the frames. They almost identical to the frames you had. And so my son overheard, like, what? What is a woman's frames? And I'm like, you'd wear these glasses even though they're labeled women's frames on the internet? And he's like, but they look just like it. I'm like, yeah, but the ones I had when I bought them. And so the thing about manhood is an elastic term and concept. And depending on the era in which you live, the standards for what it makes a man, the qualities necessary of a man, evolve. And then we really pretend like Tupac didn't take a picture in a Speedo sitting in the bathtub with champagne and gold chains. We really gonna pretend like Prince never happened. That brothers wouldn't wear tight slacks. And Del Jones said when we were kids, we wore pants so tight you had to screw your feet off to take your pants off and put them on. And so we talk about the destruction, the eradication, the elimination of masculinity. When masculinity ain't going nowhere, humanity would have to go extinct. And what you could say, if you want to be sophisticated, is say masculinity, according to my limited and warped definition of masculinity, isn't accessible to me. I don't see it anymore. You know, you could say that. But the problem with it, and the reason Because this isn't just about somebody's opinion. Because this myth that masculinity is going away, is gone, or under attack provokes behavior. It provokes a large amount of very toxic and even dangerous behavior. Heather B said the only thing stronger than love, than a man's love, is a man's ego. And if you read certain books about violence, one of the highest correlations between violence and threat to ego. You better off threaten a man's mama, threaten a man's property, threaten a man's freedom. But you threaten a man's ego, that will provoke violence quicker than anything else. Now, it's hard to gauge because different men have their egos wrapped up in different things. But if you dissect it, like, why did you do it? Why'd you shoot? Why'd you stab? Why'd you set that fire? Why'd you ram that car? They might say, oh, they talking crazy. She cheated on me. You know, he was from a different set than me. But more so, when you get down to it, I felt disrespected. My ego was threatened. And so, masculinity and manhood, which unto itself is mythologized and warped. And you have somebody as milquetoast, as apolitical, as status quo, as Anthony Mackie, perpetuating this myth that manhood has gone away. That manhood has gone away, and it's something you have to consciously and deliberately create and defend and protect, which is absurd. And that's the kind of shit that army recruiters use to recruit cannon fodder for imperialist warfare. That's the kind of shit that will get a man to work underpaid and be overworked to exhaustion, to mental and physical breaking point, because that's what a man does. So it's not just an attitude or a disposition or a belief. It is a set pattern of behaviors provoked by a fallacy. Manhood is not under attack. What the oppressor has done was cultivated a warped sense of manhood in the males in society. And after creating that warped sense of malehood, they deny that population access to the very thing that they have defined for you that you need. And then when you create that chasm, in that chasm, they fill it up with scapegoats. These females, these punks, corporate media, DEI, broken families. They fill it up with things. And they blame powerless groups for destroying this thing that doesn't fucking exist. Can you imagine if your whole identity is wrapped up in something that isn't real? And then I could say this unreal thing that you cling to is being destroyed by these people that I want you to attack. So you're fighting real people for something that ain't fucking real. But I can tell you some shit that you can go to any black barbershop or any population of black people you want a black men. Go to the basketball court for the pickup games, go to the barbershop, go to the tabernacle and the deacons meeting. Go to any population where you find what you personally define as real black men. And they're talking about losing something that number one, doesn't even fucking exist. And then they blame populations that ain't got shit to do with it. This notion, these things about masculinity, black men or men in general being providers. Provider is a fucking myth. There is no single provider for anybody in a complex civilization. Men are not providers. That men being providers and black women, now this is women in general. I don't even got to say, when I'm talking about abroad, women have been indoctrinated as much as men into this notion of provider. And I look at it. And look at somebody you would think of as a provider. Let's think of Will Smith. Will Smith is known as a family man who has provided for his family. And what the fuck has he provided for his family? Look, just think about this concept of provider. Or let me bring it to myself. My wife is a passenger princess. She don't drive. And now that my son has a license and I have a license, you know, I'm surprised she still sits up front. I'm surprised she don't sit back in the back seat and put a barrier up. So I drive my wife. My wife doesn't touch her steering wheel. Now I'm really, and I'm not even joking. I'm kind of afraid she's going to lose her ability to drive because she don't drive nowhere. And I didn't manufacture the car. I didn't pave the roads. I didn't drill for the oil, refine and put it in the pump. I operate the motor vehicle. But I'm only able to provide for my wife in that way because of the work of thousands of people coordinating all over the fucking world. Thousands of people coordinating all over the fucking world. So I'm not the provider. I'm part of a large system, coordinated system of people. And then I have to depend on other people on the road to conduct themselves in a certain way. So whether it is driving your wife or providing her with a private jet or providing her with a home that your ass didn't build. Your ass didn't build. So provisions come from collective works. There's no man. Bill Gates is not a fucking provider. He has nannies, cooks, gardeners, chauffeurs. So you're going to say, well, being a provider is about earning money. What the fuck you going to do with that money? You show me a field of cotton, I can't produce a shirt for you. But I can buy the shirt. But that's only if the retail worker is there. So I'm a big, powerful man with a lot of money. But fuck, if I could be Money Mayweather. But if the employees say, hey, we're doing a sit down strike, we're doing a lockout, we're gonna hit the streets. If the Amazon people say we done moving these boxes or driving these trucks. If the merchant marines say, wait, we ain't loading and unloading these docks. If the people in the sweatshops are like, we're done, we're not sitting at these, you ain't providing shit. So you should be thankful, you should be grateful, you should be fucking humble and acknowledge that, hey, I'm able to do things for my wife is able to do things for me, we're both able to come together and do things for our children, and our children are able to come and join a network, a family, a community, and do things for us because of all the collective work of every fucking body. And the money disrupts and corrupts that process. Money corrupts that process. So if you're a good man, it ain't about what you provide for the individual. A good man will acknowledge the interconnected system that we need to live, and then say, hey, there's exploitation, there's disruption, there's corruption, there's pollution, there's imbalance in this system. So I should conduct myself and engage in behaviors to bring balance and sustainability to this network. That's what I should do. Because as the planet becomes more corrupt and more unstable due to climate change and other factors, all the fucking money in the world won't save you. You can be sitting in that goddamn multi-million-dollar bunker like Mark Zuckerberg. And you saw what happened with the quarantine. And people lost their shit. So you go beyond that, and you in some fucking bunker in a hillside in Colorado during a complete collapse of Earth ecosystem, or you that sick motherfucking Nazi boy Musk, and you on a fucking charter rocket that's not going to make it going to Mars, that is not a viable solution. So black men, manhood, as we understand it, and being a provider, the way there is no individual provider. So if you want to be a good man, you have to say, I am a just member of this network, this web of interdependence and cooperation. When I am providing a service, I do so humanely, justly, empathetically. And when I go out to buy things for people I love, to secure things for people I love, I am mindful that it's not fucking Jeff Bezos that brought this to me. If you're vacationing and you're so empty and hollow that you would stay at Trump Tower, you don't owe Trump shit. It's the electrician. It's the civil engineer. It is the room service and the maids and the janitorial staff that came together to make that possible for you. You didn't make it possible, nor did the motherfucker that's getting the most of the money and the most of the accolades made it possible. So the very concept of provider is some capitalistic Western bullshit. And I even see these black homesteaders. The fact that a black person is talking about they're a homesteader is buck wild. We just use their name, their language. The fact that black people out here like, oh, I'm a homesteader. Homesteaders, and you know, let me know if you've seen the black homesteaders. There's some black couple that come online. We bought 25 acres of land and we're living off grid and we are independent, self-sufficient. And they say self-sufficient, and I look over that shoulder and her son's driving a 4x4. And then on the other shoulder, there's a goddamn John Deere tractor. And even when I look at their house, they live in a place, I don't see one tree. They live in Colorado or something, but their home is made of lumber. Right. They off grid, but they have a popular YouTube channel or TikTok, wherever. So we have caught this warped sense that if I pay you to do something or if I pay for something, then my obligation is done. I have no obligation. My obligation and connection end at the point of purchase. So I give you fiat currency, which is not real, for lumber. I give you fiat currency, which is not real, for steel. And I've done something because we've been coerced into this system. And the fact homesteader literally means the white invaders who came to murder and displace the Native Americans. And even if you show up someplace in America talking about you a homesteader and you haven't killed anybody, that's because someone else killed on your behalf. So, I mean, these black homesteaders, if they black and celebrating Kwanzaa, pour libations to the white folks that came in and slaughtered the natives on your behalf, that murdered off the buffalo, had mountains of buffalo skulls 4 or 5 stories high. Homesteader is literally a settler. A settler is literally an invader. And we're just using that. You just can't be like, I'm a brother in the woods. I'm a sister in the woods. We need new terminology. Stop using that shit. You ain't no goddamn homesteader. You ain't circling wagons, and you're not self-sufficient. You know, these Negroes will grow a tomato. Will grow a tomato and swear it is psychopathic, individualistic, capitalistic, exploitative, and most of all, ungrateful. Our principle is Ubuntu. I am because we are. I am worthy of this life that I live. I am worthy of these comforts and luxuries because I am also willing and able and actively giving back in the ways that I give back. I'm not about to go cut no lumber, But if you're an artist, if you're a poet, if you're a singer, so to see so many African people get caught up into this individualistic, artificial, giving something artificial for shit that is real. And now you ain't even paying money. You swiping plastic and really think you're providing for yourself. You go out and swipe plastic and like, I'm independent. I'm self-sufficient. Why are you swiping plastic? So anyway, that is a warped sentence. That is wrong. We shouldn't be talking about providers. Our goal as men, and our goal should be to bring justice, to this interdependent web that we are dependent on. The human interactions, our interactions with the ecosystem and the natural world, to defend, liberate, and protect. That's manhood. Not about what you can individually extract, but what you take in and what you give out. Become a part of the web and the system. That's Black masculinity. Black masculinity needs to be an intellectual, philosophical, and material components of it. The only way to be a great man, a good man, a rebel, is to act against the forces of oppression, imperialism, capitalism, and colonization. Because if you're not doing that shit, and that's what you teach your children, and that should be your motivation behind not buying Jordans. Not to say, hey, you can't have Jordans now because I want to encourage you to go out and work and earn a lot of money and become an asset to the corporation, become an agent of the empire, and then you will get yourself Jordans. Don't ever buy fucking Jordans. You know, my son, I like the work that my son is doing. But he started throwing away his Nikes. Had a lot of fucking Nikes too. He was throwing away a lot of fucking shoes. I've never owned that. The amount of shoes he threw away in that post was more shoes than I've owned in my entire life. And I said to him, why are you throwing those shoes away? You should donate them. Donate them to the landfill. But I understand, he did the right thing the wrong way. So you can do the right thing the wrong way, wrong thing the right way. So, but that's that. We need to change not just our language, but how we think. We need to transform our concepts. The concept, what is a man? What is a real man? A real man is not someone who's able to create a fortress, provide for my family. A real man is a man that acknowledges the interconnected network of human labor and ecological inputs that allow for him to enjoy the life that he lives or build the life that he wants. And his true compensation for that interconnect is to feed back into it positively and to attack and remain an active enemy of things that threaten that interconnected network. I don't know why this is so hard. I know why, because we mimic white people. Real men defend the collective collectively. Defend the collective collectively. I'll say it one more time. Manhood, masculinity. Defend the collective collectively. That should be a funnel. So it's not even enough. We don't need a Batman. We don't need you to go out there and do it yourself, martyr yourself. Won't be erased by wokeness, huh? But you can be banned by a wokeness. I just banned his ass. So he just got erased by wokeness. And his comments are gone too. So Lithium, I just proved you wrong. You're not a man anymore. Now it's time for you to go get a sequence halter top and a feather boa and learn to do the dead drop. Because that's what his man was, not being erased. I just erased him. That dumbass shit. I'm sorry, James. I know James is the moderator. I'm sorry, James. You are the best moderator. I hope I don't lose you to a bigger platform because you are the best moderator on all of YouTube, all of the channels. He's very good. He's very fair, and I just overstepped him. Sorry. I just had to do it. Now, I don't do it often. I think that's my first time banning anybody the whole time I've been on here. Anyway, so I want to get into something. Now, what has this got to do with Trump? And then we're going to wrap it up. Oh, shit. See, that's why I should just stay in one place. I could live my whole life in a 2-mile radius because I got some place. Oh, shit. Okay. We good. We got a little time. I ain't going to be able to go to full time. Anyway, Trump. Before Trump was president, and what a lot of white racists like to talk about is how prominent Trump was in black male media. If you know boxing and sports in general, a lot of very testosterone infused games. Mike Tyson always likes to give accolades to Trump because Trump was there for him. There was some other demented athlete that had dementia. Who was the guy who had dementia that was like, Trump was a good man? He was a prominent black person. Who was that? And his family came out and said, he's thinking of Trump of 1980s. He doesn't really understand. And he's like, Trump really opened up doors for me. So you'll find a lot of prominent, wealthy black men that are loved, maybe not as much as before. But you go, Herschel, was it? No, it wasn't Herschel Walker. Jim Brown, yeah, him too. But no, there was a black man deep in the throes of dementia that was talking about how much he loved. It wasn't Herschel Walker. Yeah, it was a Panther, an ex-Black Panther, or an elder Panther. I can't remember his name. It's really sad. He was like, Trump was there for us. Trump loved us. But if you grew up listening to hip-hop, every rapper referenced Donald Trump. Now, there were some rappers, the rappers I grew up listening to, hated Donald Trump. You listen to Boots Riley, and he referenced Trump. Like, you listen to their very first album that came out in like 1989, and there's literally at Not Yet Free, at the very end of Not Yet 3, at the end of the song, they put Trump in front of a firing squad. And, the coup. Boots Riley, E-Rock, rest in peace to Pamela Funtress. And so the rappers, Wise Intelligent, they didn't reference Poor Righteous Teachers. They did not reference Trump favorably. But you listen to every other rapper, a prominent black man in politics, prominent black man. Oh, crap. Hold on. I'm going to be late. I'm going to just let them know I'm going to be late. I'm sorry. I'm just doing too much. But anyway, Muhammad Ali, every prominent black athlete, every prominent black politician, every prominent businessman. If you were a black businessman from the 70s, 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, if you were a prominent businessman, in fact, the only black demographic that I know of from when I was young, the only black male population that didn't give love and accolades to Trump were Black academics and intellectuals. Like, I can't think of any prominent Black intellectuals or academics from the 80s and 90s that had reverence for Trump or circles. But you name a prominent Black figure who was prominent and well known, and Black militants, of course, Black communists, Black anarchists. I don't think Farrakhan had any relationship with Trump, but I think that's because Trump kept a distance from him, because Farrakhan, you look up Sun Myung Moon, there are other prominent, wealthy, right-wing, ultra-conservative fascists that Farrakhan was attached to. But I think, he even went on and had a amicable relationship with Alex Jones. But I digress. But you look up somebody of prominence, actors, athletes, business leader, politician, and later down the line, rappers that reach any height of success, and you see them cheek to cheek with Trump, shaking hands, skinning. I met Trump, I made it. And Trump was prominent amongst Black people because Trump was the embodiment of success in America. Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. You young people never heard of that show. I used to watch that show with my grandma. Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. He was on the cover of magazines, sitting on golden thrones, and he was everywhere. And so rappers, 80s, whenever a rapper wanted to reference how rich they were in the 80s, 90s hip-hop, they would say something about Trump. He's one of the most cited or referenced individuals in that. Now, some people, and you can't give them the excuse. You can't give them the excuse that, well, Trump wasn't racist back then. Or we didn't know. We knew Trump was a racist. We knew Trump was a racist. Trump had been calling for the execution of Black people. Now, Trump was a Democrat, or what he would be more accurately known, Trump was a Dixiecrat. And Trump was cited by the federal government for discriminatory housing at every opportunity. Trump would try to demonstrate that he was a racist, he was an elitist. He's always been the exact same fucking person, and he didn't try to hide it. But here's the thing about wealthy and prominent Black people. Wealthy and prominent Black people are very comfortable with racists because wealthy and prominent Black people have convinced themselves that they're special. So wealthy and prominent Black people all over this world, from African oligarchs to Black business moguls, to the most prominent Black people. I mean, even 50 Cent was just down at some honky-tonk auction with a big-ass 10-gallon cowboy hat on and cowboy boots and a big cowboy buckle. And he was the only Black face in there in an ocean of white rednecks. And I've never seen the man happier. In fact, I've known of 50. I remember back when he How to Rob. I was living in New York when 50 first came up, and his name was ringing out because he was dissing everybody, all kind of crazy shit. I was living in New York City at the time. And has 50 Cent gone to war with any white folks? But anyway, I digress. We celebrate when we see a Black person reach the heights of heights. Even though that most Black people in the heights of heights go there and sell us out. They go there and sell us out. And so there are a lot of the fact that prominent Blacks pride themselves on being sophisticated enough, because us poor Black people, we're not as smart as them because we're not rich. How can you be smart if you ain't rich? If you got intellect, why wouldn't you be using it to personally enrich yourself? Dumb people get caught up in morals and ethics and standards, principles. It's all about the money. Like Oprah Winfrey, the only color that matters is green. Black and white don't matter. So prominent Black people pride themselves on their ability to sit and maintain their poise and maintain their center and sit across from white people as they use vile and degenerate language. They will sit at the table and have a seat at the table. And at the table, the downfall and ongoing oppression of our people is the main course at the fucking table. And in their own mind, they convince themselves, number one, I'm special. And these special Negroes, from the house slave to the Black billionaire of today, I'm sitting at the NFL. I got a prominent position at the racist NFL that literally generates profits from destroying the most capable Black bodies on the earth. So there'll never be a spook who sat by the door. The spook who sat by the door is a wonderful work of fiction. And that shows how brilliant Sam Greenlee is. Because he didn't really have no real historical reference for that. He made it up out of whole cloth. It's a fictional character. It might as well be science fiction. So Trump, Black men who are able to look at Trump, listen to Trump, and watch Trump do overtly fascist, racist, anti-Black, anti-African actions will always convince themselves to the moment that we're all on the cattle cars that he ain't talking about me, he talking about y'all niggas. And they don't just, these prominent Blacks aren't just separate from us, they're above us. Jay-Z raps about it all the time. You watching the game from the house, you watching the fight from your house. I got floor seat at the Knicks game while you watching it from your basement at home. I'm front row at the Tyson fight. And remember, he has a lyric, he said, it's the same night, it's the same fight, but one of us cats ain't playing right. I'll let you tell it. And so, even though rappers are in a better position to articulate to us that we are not like y'all, we are separate and above. I have more in common with Trump than I do with some struggling broke ass. Get your money up. If the money ain't talking, I ain't listening. No, I don't think it. Let me find out who it is. Ex-Black Panther. Who is it? David Hilliard. It was David Hilliard. Lord. David Hilliard praised Trump. He said that Trump was on their side. Now, here's the thing about Trump, though. You're like, well, these Negroes love Trump, but don't that mean Trump loved Negroes? Let me tell you something about racist white men. Racist white men don't, especially wealthy racists. No, David Hilliard. Let me just see if I can get his Wikipedia. I'll share a link to his Wikipedia page. His family came out and was like, he's not aware. He thinks it's Trump from decades ago. Let me tell you something about wealthy white men. That whole, don't you live in my neighborhood? I don't want no Black. I don't want to sit next to you. Listen, wealthy white people don't do racism the way poor white people do. Poor white people fixate on water fountains, and poor white people fixate on sitting in front of the bus. Or poor white people fixate on, I don't want no niggers going to my school. Poor white people fixate on, I don't want no nigger buying a house in my neighborhood. Wealthy white people is like, you can buy, I don't live in a neighborhood. I live in I don't have mine. The closest neighbor is 20 hectares away from me. So I don't, if a Black could buy, I wouldn't know it. It is about power, not proximity. White racists have to deal with proximity because they are not in the power centers. Elite whites not only tolerate the presence of Blacks, they encourage it. They are connoisseurs. They go on safari. They go to exotic places and eat exotic food and wear exotic fabrics. So because you and everybody listening to me is working class, poor, lower middle class at best, we tend to look at working class because we don't want to do radical analysis that will allow us to construct countermeasures. We just want to be a white racist. Different racisms hit different. So Trump is happy to interact with these prominent black people, even though he hates black people, because just like those Negroes, he also agrees these Negroes are special. These Negroes are special. Just like, yeah, I'm special. Now, these Negroes think they're special for a different reason than Trump think they're special. Mike Tyson was like, my career, I owe so much in my career to Trump and fighting at his casinos. When he don't owe Trump a thank you or appreciation for shit, because every dollar that Mike Tyson made, Trump made 10 to 100. Mike Tyson, over his career, said he squandered his $300 to $500 million fortune. Tyson blew through his boxing money in less than a lifetime. But he created fortunes for white folks that will last generations. He didn't do it because he liked Mike Tyson. He did it because Tyson was a good investment. To Trump, a racist like Trump, it's no different than buying or setting up an arena for him to box in. It's no different than building a track for a horse to run on. And when it runs out, when it no longer of use to you, take it out behind the barn. Just like OJ. That's the Negro wake-up call. For every Negro that thought he's special, the moment he's no longer generating more revenue for his oppressor than he is, and even if you're generating revenue, I say all the time, racists are like Western culture. They are the epitome of Western culture. There's nothing that the West loves more than the dog. And there's nothing they hate more than a wolf. They kill off the wolf from Europe to the Americas. Wholesale slaughter of the wolf. While they have these kennel shows and paying tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars for dogs. But there are a lot of simple-minded people that will go on the internet and Google image Trump cheek to cheek with all these black folks. Even some black folks we consider conscious. Even some black folks, Jesse Jackson. So we don't understand. We think, well, if black people are elevating in the system, then the system is less racist. And now that Trump is purging black people from the system, that means the system is more racist. No, the system was racist both instances, but there is a level of security when they allow you in. When they become more insecure, they will push you out. So Trump was promoted in this sick, it's not symbiotic, but parasitic relationship that Trump has had with prominent black men specifically throughout history, throughout his public life, that a lot of Uncle Toms and idiots think is evidence that how you call Trump a racist when all these black rappers were calling his name out, and you can't find a black performer or a prominent black person, politician who didn't take a photo op with Trump, who didn't make a pilgrimage to Trump Tower. Or there's some people who are a little less ignorant will say, well, Trump was okay then, but he's racist now. We don't have to understand. I saw someone shared an article I wrote 11 years ago talking about class within the black community. And I used to say these things, but they got so twisted that I had to rework the analysis. Because I used to say there's no hierarchy among slaves. I would say that all the time. And I was mainly talking about Bill Cosby. I was hating on Bill Cosby since the 90s or 80s even. So I am a pioneer in Cosby hateration. and Oprah the same. But I said there's no hierarchy amongst slaves. And because, and even these prominent black people, there's no real class stratification because we're all enslaved. And so even if we look at prominent black people, but there is class amongst black people. Within our black group, there is stratification. But in the larger system, we're all in the same core. There is no independent source of black power. And that's why you'll find that the more prominent black people, the more insecure and afraid they are. You'll find that they're more, even the militants. Look at Ice Cube. Ice Cube, man, go look up Ice Cube and APAC. You know, every time I mean, Jesus. Ugh. The Zionist organization. Ice Cube is a card-carrying Zionist. Ice Cube went from Khalid Muhammad to Netanyahu. And if you look at his bank account and his prominence, it is tied to the watering down and warping of his politics. But I got it. You know, today I ain't gonna get into it because that's gonna take me over, and I have to wrap this up. I saw here in the hotel on basic hotel cable, I saw the Straight Outta Compton movie. I promise, I was like, I ain't going to see that shit. I don't want to see that shit. And it was everything I said. I wrote a whole article on the movie without seeing it because I knew what they were doing. And a lot of titties in that. There's a lot of titties in that movie. Jeez, and it wasn't even like HBO, and it was in the morning. They were playing Straight Outta Compton, and that's one. Okay, if I was like, yeah, a fair amount of titties in that movie, more than I would think. I don't know why it wouldn't be. I mean, it's the rap life, but jeez, a lot of. But anyway, I saw that movie for the first time, and I don't even have nothing to say about it because everything I said about it before I saw it, I stand on. So I ain't even gonna get into it. I never saw CB4. I never saw CB4 either. I saw like the first 5 minutes of CB4 and like, I can't watch this. I can. So black men have been indoctrinated into the system. And even black men who believe they are acting in opposition or resisting the system with this empty rhetoric about black manhood. Black masculinity, as articulated and presented under this patriarchal system, is not a threat to the system. Black manhood, black guns, black men rising. There's even nonsensical rhetoric of bringing down the black men because they feared, like they bringing down, I've even heard bringing down Kanye, bringing down R. Kelly, bringing down Diddy, all these prominent black men, and they doing just what the what. These warped notions, these reactionary status quo notions, and black men as a population, we've always had reactionaries in our midst. We always had conservatives in our midst, but they are becoming more and more prominent as the system, the overt racism of the system of an empire in decline. And you would think that the fall of the empire would bring about more black militancy, black consciousness, black resistance. But the fascist government of the United States is generating more black allies every day. I see black men talking about Elon Musk is exposing corruption. Elon Musk is cutting them people off. Yeah, they're not getting them and cutting off welfare. They believe that Elon Musk and Trump are going to resurrect the black family because black women won't get welfare anymore. So black women will be forced to be family. And I don't understand why black mothers are there. That's half the equation. I hear so much talk about black mothers as if all these black women are engaged in immaculate conception. So if you're a member of an oppressed population and your manhood, your identity as a man is not rooted in revolutionary resistance, talking about protection. If your idea of protecting your family is about violently defending what little concessions you are able to acquire under this system, as opposed to fighting the system, if you care more about protecting your car, protecting your TV, your giant 500-inch TV, and that is a greater presence of mind than protecting the ecosystem, protecting the quality of air, soil, and water, you are an asset to the system, not a threat. Black love is revolutionary. No, it's not. So a lot of brothers who think they're on the right track, like Anthony Mackie, like David Banner, guys, I'm not dissing, but it's an incomplete. It's warped and incomplete. Their assessments of black manhood, black movement, and how to bring it. Like with David Banner, I'm like, if you attract somebody to the movement with the Lamborghini, as a consumer, as a purchaser, the person who manufactures Lamborghini will have way more influence over the Lamborghini bait consumer than the person who bought it. So we need to dispel the myth that black manhood is under threat, that masculinity is under threat. That's some sick ass white boy. And let me tell you, when these white boys say masculinity is being destroyed, that means that they're like, we are not able to engage in conquest and pillage. That's manhood for them. That's manhood, a rite of passage to rape a female slave that suckled them at the breast. So black men hear white men saying, a man is only value. And then there was this dumb thing, I did a whole show on it. Strong men create good times or easy times. And easy times create weak men. And weak men destroy society. And then strong men have to build it up again. And that's a fucking lie. So raise your sons to be masculine, to be men. Raise your sons to be revolutionaries, freedom fighters. Raise your sons to be empathetic and just. Raise your sons to be anti-capitalistic. Raise your sons to be pan-Africanist. And regardless of their gender presentation, regardless of whatever trends come about for their generation, that's one thing that can be consistent across generations. We love Garvey. We love James Baldwin. We love Bobby Wright. And it wasn't about how macho, how muscular, how athletic, how virile. It's their resistance to our oppression. That's the fundamental. And say whatever talents your offspring have or whatever identity they develop or cultivate, they should use their resources, their talent, their time to make a positive contribution to the just aspirations of African people, to dismantle the systems and institutions of global white hegemony and capitalism. That's a man. That's a woman. That's a gender nonconforming as African people. And these prominent black men that don't get up and say, hey, I'm raising an anti-capitalist. I'm raising a socialist. I'm raising an anarchist. I'm raising someone who respects ecosystems, who comprehends the interconnected web of life. I'm raising a person to feed into society, not to be a parasite to exploit and extract more than he needs. That's manhood. Stop all these Western representation of manhood's capacity to do violence, the capacity to exploit other people's labor. And black women, please stop perpetuating that too. Please stop. Because a lot of sisters talking, especially a lot of Muslim and Christian sisters out there talking that provider bullshit. You think your man is a provider? He's a purchaser. Say that shit. But they don't have the ring to it. I'm a purchaser for my family. I'm a purchaser. That's what you are. You can say you're an earner. I earn the money. And even if your identity is rooted in the earning the money, you're either a working class or a parasitic class. If you're a member of the parasitic class, why are you wasting time watching this show? But if you are 99% of y'all listening to me, even if you say, hey, man, I don't manufacture cars, I don't weave fabric, I buy things for my family. So even though I'm a provider because I buy things for my family. That means you are a wage earner. So even your capacity to earn a wage is under direct threat. So you should be pro-union, pro-living wage, pro-social safety net, all elements of the social safety net, job security, housing security. That should be a part of your fight. If you're not a member of the capitalist class, even if you're a high value, even if in the slave auction you would have sold first to the biggest plantation. Because that's what I hear every time I hear high value. I think of a fucking auction block, and it makes me sick. Black people walking around talking about who's high value and who ain't. I mean, Kevin Samuels has done so much reverberating damage to black people, as if we ain't got enough people out here spewing nonsense. But he's done more damage in such a short amount of time. I mean, goddamn. But he struck a nerve. He struck a chord. It's probably a minor. But anyway, black manhood must be revolutionary. And the goals, aspirations, the values that define manhood need to be revolutionary. If they are not, you are nothing more than a cog, an asset, a victim of white domination and capitalist propaganda and indoctrination. That's it. There's a lot more to say, but I'm literally out of time. And my notes, I'm sorry. I have a lot more to say, and I indulge myself because I'm excited to be out of the house. I'm excited to get flued out. But I do have to go. I mean, California, man, I thought New York doesn't sleep. Californians get busy at night. So I got some phone calls, and I got to make a quick run before shit closes down here. I appreciate you. Please like, share, and subscribe. As soon as I get back to Chicago, my priority will be getting the stuff out to the Patreon, updating the website. I'm going to do all this house cleaning that I've been neglecting for almost a year. And that's on my manhood. I'm going to do that. So I thank y'all. I appreciate y'all. Sorry don't have time to get to Q&A. Sorry if the time's confusing. But like I said, I'll holla at your boy New York. And I appreciate y'all. Shout out to James. Appreciate you. Shout out to co-conspirator Chauncey. I'll get that thing done for you as soon as possible. And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna do of that. Like I'm gonna put Dr. Mingo on it, so you know she make it happen. So appreciate y'all. And yeah, I told you you don't be listening. You hear, but you don't listen. Yes, I'm in Cali. Going back to Cali. But anyway, I appreciate y'all. And I will see y'all. I might not be there, but Wednesday, go like, share, subscribe here. Go over to African World Order, which is our communal collective channel. Rational Radicals Wednesday and Friday. Yeah, hopefully I'll be settled in. And we got Class Con, Critiques, Class Consciousness show on Friday. And then circle back to this on Monday. Now I'm going to be the other way. It's the time of being the other time zone. See, now I'm going to have to block you. I like LL's version, but Biggie's version of going back to Cali, going back to Cali. Biggie killed that. No disrespect to LL, but Biggie owns that now. But anyway, let me get out of here before I start another unnecessary debate. Y'all be wanting to do barbershop talk. Till next time, peace.